Hey, all, and welcome back to another rant. This is going to be focusing around taking critique and giving thanks. Give you a little bit of background, right quick, short story. I ended up having to discuss a few matters with one of my GMs. Yes, I know, despite the fact that the title card might tell you that I end up running more often than not a game. I do end up having the opportunity to play in some very good games and some very good groups. All evidence to the contrary when you end up hearing my horror stories, but that's another video. And I found myself in that position that we've all known. And if you take this hobby with any degree of, I don't know about the social interaction, yeah, nah. Tact, nah, that's not right either. Point is that there was a particular session that went on that I wasn't particularly happy with. It was just one of those few sessions that just hit, 4 out of 10. It's like it wasn't bad. It's just we could have done so much better, and it was kind of eating at me for a while. I actually ended up holding off on the GM trying to spare feelings, and after I thought about it for a minute, and keep in mind I wasn't in the best of headspaces when I was doing this, I realized that one of the things I'm going to need to end up doing is just get a hold. I ended up talking to my GM and saying, when you got some time, I'd like to pull you aside and talk. We ended up having a bit of a conversation where I was telling them some of the things that were happening in the game that kind of just dissuaged me. More than anything, I judge a game on how good it is based on how much is it keeping my attention. Because I do not want to be one of those players who's sitting around playing a game on the side, breaking out the iPhone, breaking into Fallout Shelter. Yeah, that seems to be the one I'm going to lately. But that's what was happening. I was becoming distracted. And the reason for that is that the elements in the game, the particular actions of players, just wasn't particularly interesting. They were playing out things that weren't really unfolding much or telling much about the character. They were just kind of a lark, kind of. It was just a point where I wasn't exactly having fun. And when you're not having fun, the first person you go to is your GM. You end up saying, like, look, this might be getting in the way of things, or are you feeling the same way about this? There needs to be communication with your GM. And I was hesitating on this because, quite frankly, I wanted to end up sparing people's feelings, which I think is the wrong route to go. I understand you want to end up treating them as a human being, but part of treating people as a human being is offering them respect. And respect ends up saying you will end up telling them how you feel about any given situation and making sure that those lines of communication are open. I was thankful that I actually managed to end up speaking to my GM on this regard, and they managed to take the criticism not only with a smile, but actually ended up setting me aside and ended up saying, well, you want to know what? No, I think you're right. There's a few things that we can do and tweak it. So how about we work it out together? And we did. So I'm actually very much looking forward to next session, and to which my GM has my eternal gratitude. It's sometimes hard to end up taking that kind of critique when you realize that the particular session is flubbed and the players are not exactly enthralled with it. Becomes kind of an issue. But what makes it worse is when it's never brought up, and it's almost like there's this barrier. And I've seen this in a few games. There's like this artificial barrier in people's heads that says the GM is the boss. This is how it's going to go down. Now, while the GM may be the final arbitrator, one of the things is I end up saying you need to value your time. You need to value the GM's time. And part of valuing your time together in a game is that communication to make sure that things are the best that they can be, to be exciting for each player, to grab hold of their attention and help tell the story that you're trying to tell with this particular adventure, this campaign, whatever you're playing. The other thing that I never expressed near as much as I should have, even now, is that I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the time that they put in, time and time again, to end up making sure that they bring in the best campaign that they can, in whatever form it takes. That they spend hours thinking up story hooks and ideas and things to do with the characters and trying to find and help explore these characters. And you got to remember, characters can only be explored through solo interaction and just one particular point so long. There needs to be a point where the outside world needs to question them. Not just literally, but in all other ways. And when a GM like my own are doing these things to pull the character to ask these questions, not necessarily directly, but through their actions, through the choices they're given, and trying to end up finding some way to end up making sure that they're brought in and being able to explore that character a little bit more, I value extremely highly. So, if by chance I'm running in your game, this is directed at you. The fact that you've taken your time to end up setting aside and play a game with me. The fact that you've built up stories around the ideas that I've helped build, or maybe you're just fascinated by an aspect of a character and you wanted to help me flesh it out, put me up against challenges I wasn't sure this character was capable of handling, and sometimes they can't handle it, which can be just as interesting on its own. The fact that you've taken the time to craft these experiences, I can only say thank you. Thank you so much for that. If you're watching this by any chance and you are playing in a game, take a minute just to the side of the session and say thank you. Acknowledge the work that's been done. Make it a point to elevate it and show that appreciation. Say it right now, when I do ST, that doesn't come frequently enough. It never could. Because it's a little bit of energy given back from a player to the person running the game. So, if you're in a game, you're sitting around the table, give your GM a surprise hug, even if it weirds them out. Yeah, pat on the shoulder. Hell, if you're anything like a player of mine, yeah, back in the day, you'd probably just jump up on my back and then hug my bald head. Quickly, it ended up taking the grab my bald to a whole nother level back then before I even understood that joke. And if you don't understand that joke, someday we'll share that with you. Don't be afraid of the critique. Embrace it. Play around with it. No problem stays being a problem once you start to play around with it. Then it becomes just something to toy around with, and damn the consequences. It is what it is. And be grateful to those who end up putting in the time and effort to create the worlds that you've inhabited, the stories that you help tell, the NPCs that you've grown attached to over the days, weeks, months, and if you're lucky, years. Until next time.